uh thing we wanted to talk about, kind of the opposite way, is African American or black producers working on K-pop. There was a thread recently that went viral on K-pop Twitter about how many black producers had written some of the most popular and influential songs in K-pop, and there are also people who've written some of the biggest hits here as well. It's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
the biggest international producers of pop music are like African Americans and like Swedish people. It's very interesting. Obviously, there are a lot of Korean producers as well, but it's interesting to see that the K-pop companies are really pulling talent. Like, they're like, talent is talent, for our songwriting thing. So one of the interesting ones, really, to me, was Teddy Riley. Teddy Riley, um, basically was the pioneer of New Jack Swing. And seeing that he wrote so many iconic songs, including The Boys by Girls' Generation, was pretty amazing to see.
Yeah, he's like produced and worked with like Michael Jackson, Pharrell, like Lady Gaga, like a literal icon. He like works with icons. So like to see like some of the groups on this list, I'm not surprised. Why? Because I like them too. And I think, it's because the sound resonates with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we bring it up a lot on the show, like whenever we're listening to something, we're like, oh, like culturally as African Americans, as Black people, like I just feel connected to that sound because it's what I've grown up hearing in the music from here, from my people. So it's like, it's really cool to see that reflected back in the actual process of the song making.
Yeah. I mean, I was shocked that Teddy Riley, when Sid showed me the thread, I was pretty surprised it was that amount of Black producers. Honestly, it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. But knowing that someone like Teddy Riley had to do with it, and how he pioneered such a big sound in R&B, and how honestly that's impacted every type of fusion sound that we have right now, especially what's popular in R&B and pop today. That's really cool to hear that. I also saw is it Taylor Parks?
Yeah.
I hope I'm saying that. She's like a modern songwriter, like that everyone's super into, especially with Ariana.
Really hot right now.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's cool too. Like new songwriters as well.
Yeah, she wrote Dum Dum for Red Velvet, and that song slaps.
Yeah, and there are groups that we really love, like on here. Like I saw a ton of EXO, Call Me Baby, completely iconic, was produced by Teddy Riley. I saw Twice, More and More on here. That was like co-written and produced by MNEK. I saw BTS's Paradise, which that is a big thing in BTS fandom. We love Paradise, and it never gets the play that it should, but it's also like co-written by him. Tyla was worked on Mic Drop. So like I saw a lot of Shiny on this list. It just made me feel like, wow, the groups I like really have like a connection to Black culture. And I feel like that is also probably the reason why I was drawn to it in the first place. But I like that someone, like I love that this user, I'm going to shout them out because I feel like we should. Their @ is at Shawolani. So at SHAWOLANI. And I loved going through this thread. I read it out to Skylar because I was like so excited after I found it. But yeah, like producers like Dem Joints made Kick It by NCT, which we know is one of my favorite NCT songs.
He also did Cherry Bomb.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And Don't Call Me.
That's not my favorite. But
Don't Call Me, though.
Exactly. And he worked on Ya Ya Ya. So
and Obsession. I don't think so.
And who did Tempo? I know someone did Tempo because I saw it on this list. Yeah, Tempo's on this list.
And let us know, these aren't just R&B songs or songs influenced by R&B. They have written pop songs, a variety of genres, just like Black songwriters and producers have always been doing, but not necessarily been credited for, and being pigeonholed out of our own genres that we created. So it's also very cool to see that they've produced and have so many
Yeah.
And
different types.
I think it's great because you see that there's a lot of collaboration and like cross-cultural sharing here. Like a lot of like the songs obviously have work with, you know, actual Korean artists. But I think it's really cool, like specifically with the Shiny, a lot of the lyrics are written by Jonghyun while the beats are produced by Black producers. And I'm like, I love that. I just think it's really cool that we get to see more of the industry, especially because I think a lot of that is kind of like on the back burner in K-pop. Like so much of what we see is what they put on the stage and what they perform. We don't really get to see the behind. So I think it's really cool that, you know, someone made this thread so that we could get more of that. And especially because there are a lot of Black K-pop stans. I think it feels really good to see, you know, that there are roots to Black culture in it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because people ask me when I bring up that I do the show, they're like, okay, so I've been noticing that a lot of Black people, particularly Black girls, are really interested in K-pop, and I want to know why you think that is. And my answer to the question, I hadn't even known. Like, I knew Black producers like worked on K-pop, but I didn't know it was like this prominent. Like, I mean, it was like pretty much everybody, you know, everyone big. But I was also like, I think
a lot of our favorite groups specifically.
Yeah, and I was thinking, you know, it's almost like you know, in America, we've really tried to like the media has really tried to do everything in their power to destroy Michael Jackson. I feel like, and it's almost like it's like a living, breathing proof that like his legacy like won't be killed. I feel like that's kind of my answer to that. But also, you know, like people who are producing some of our favorite artists here, you know, I saw, you know, that they were producing for, you know, Anderson .Paak and things like Bruno Mars and things like that. You know,
exactly.
It's you know, it feels at home to us, but also, you know, it's doing something a little different with the, you know, with the K-pop polish and the, you know, the showmanship that they bring to it, which again comes from us as well. But, you know, we haven't really done the whole kind of Motown thing for a long time in America. So it's interesting to see how they kind of rebuilt that factory. You know, I mean, I don't mean it in a bad way, but, you know, Motown was like inspired by like the assembly lines in Detroit. So it's interesting to see how much of the history of Black music has been researched even in creating the industry from the ground up, which is fascinating to me about K-pop.
Yeah, like you guys know I love Taemin. To learn that a Black man like Adrian McKinnon helped write Idea.
Yes.
I love that song. I love that song. Like I was just really excited to like see something like this. Like Shiny, View hit #1 in South Korea, lyrics by Jonghyun, produced by Adrian McKinnon. I'm just like, that's so cool.
Yeah, View is such an iconic song.
Exactly.
And I also thought was really interesting, I don't know if you noticed this, how much of the list was SM artists. Like, I mean, everyone was on there, but it was a lot of SM.
Yeah, it was.
And
I
think
just want to say, like, oh, go.
I was just gonna say, I think their voices tend to lean towards R&B a little more.
I think that's what they do best. That's what I like hearing them.
Yeah, but it's like so cool because these artists are like these music artists behind the music, like these Black creatives and creators. They again like work with the biggest stars here: Bryson Tiller, Chris Brown, Cardi B. Like I just think it's so cool that the industry behind the scenes is very global.
Yeah. And they're developing
that's awesome.
relationships with the artists too. It's not like they're just sending a song over. Like, Drew
No,
Scotty
exactly.
is friends with Wendy and Solgi. He's friends with all of Red Velvet, but he mostly talks to them. Like, I think that's so cool.
Yeah,
Like,
apparently, Bam Bam, when he was working with Murder on the Beats for his newest solo, he talked about on Hoodie's like show, the show that he was on with Yu-Gi-Oh! He talked about how working with him was so much fun, and he felt like he learned so much, and he was growing as an
Murder
artist.
Beats white though?
He is.
Yeah.
But I was just talking on like a global perspective, like in how these artists are working together. And I just thought it was really cool. He also said that he felt like they talked about how Murder on the Beats really wanted to do a good job because it was first time working with an Asian artist on like non-English music. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's just giving people more opportunities to, stretch their creative, ideas, and it's very interesting. Another interesting thing I want to bring up that Skylar had mentioned earlier was that it's all genres and genres that we've been pigeonholed out of. One of the most iconic K-pop songs ever, Four Walls by FX, that was also co-written by a Black producer, and that's like a pure like house EDM kind of song. And I think dance music in particular has been like the most colonized genre. Like
so weird considering it start. Considering
how much they burn disco.
Considering the Black people's history with dance music and house music, so weird that we be pigeonholed out of that. But also, adding on to that, a little aside, K Tronada has won numerous awards for his Bubba album in dance and electronic music, also at the Grammys. So that's cool that like a Black producer artist did that, and I love him. So
yeah, we love K Tronada. Also, talk about pop. Ice Cream by Blackpink is on this list, co-written by Victoria Monet.
Yeah, pure
and that's
pop.
Literally pure pop, cutesy. Like, there's nothing more pop, I think, than like Ice Cream.
Yeah.
So I just think that it's definitely like cool, like that Black artists have made a space in like international music industries, because I really do think that like the influence is there and prominent, and it should be recognized.
It's not, and that it's not just influence, it's that we're making it too,
Yeah, exactly part of the process.
And
that shouldn't be denied.
Absolutely, because we're always like, oh, Swedish pop producers, and obviously there's something to be said about Swedish pop producers and how successful they've been, but we're here too, and we've created everything that Swedish pop producers do. No shade, I think they're great. Like, I'm the biggest ABBA fan ever, and they kickstarted that. But I think seeing how global we become and how cosmopolitan it is, it's very heartwarming to see.
Yeah. And I definitely think that, like, more than other stands, a lot of people often are like, well, if you don't like it because of cultural appropriation stuff in Korea, then you shouldn't like K-pop. It's like, we have a stake in this. Like, we have a stake in this. Our artists help make it.
I suppose. I mean, personally, I am of the opinion that, there's going to be some bumps and some weird things with adjusting different cultures. The world's rapidly globalizing. So it's not always going to be, perfect. I do feel like if you aren't able to understand that, or if you don't feel comfortable confronting that, or if you feel like situations of cultural appropriation are too much, it's fine, okay, to just take a step back and be a casual fan. I can relate. I totally understand. But I also just like to say that I lost my train of thought. But I think it's heartwarming too, as long as the artists and the producers are getting, number one, credited, obviously they are, and also number two, compensated as they should, because I know that was an issue for smaller producers that were Black. So as long as they're getting compensated fairly and everything's fine, I think it's totally awesome.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
As long as they're getting their check, as long as they feel respected by these companies and they feel that they're getting their dues, I will support.
Absolutely.
And also, I completely agree. Cultural appropriation, whether you're comfortable or not, is entirely like a personal thing. Like, no one can tell you how to feel about any of those given situations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
True.
So,
Yeah.
Literally up to you, not
up
for anyone
to
else.
you
Like,
to tell
either
you
like
anything about. Like,
yeah, oh, it's not a big deal, or oh, it should be a bigger deal. Like, it's up to you, especially if you're like,
group is a monolith. And
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.